I didn't think that I would be making a video on testosterone levels, but here I am doing exactly that, because watching the Olympics, whilst it has been a magical experience to see many of the performances, has also been somewhat worrying because we don't seem to have really clear guidelines on how to treat athletes that have differences in sex development. Basically, there are two aspects to this. One is the IOC had in 2021 put the burden of this decision making onto individual federations, and there are some federations that took one approach and some took another approach. The basic approach of the IOC is that if you are transgender or if you're in a situation where your testosterone levels are super high, you have to reduce them to perform at a certain level. But when you look at the Caster Semenya case and her trials and tribulations around this issue, she reported having not only a breach of confidentiality of her medical records at some point, but she also talked about the fact of how the medication to reduce her levels affected her performance and made her feel ghastly and sick. So where is the real line? How is it fair and when is it fair? One cannot undermine sport for women and one cannot undermine the process of the rigor of being in the Olympics. But on the other hand, are we as a society being fair and understanding how to really pitch the whole transgender issue? There is one issue of a man becoming a woman by way of surgery and other methods, and then there's another way where you could be born female, but you have what is called sort of the XYDSD kind of issue where you have a higher testosterone level and therefore you would outperform a female with simply the XX chromosome. This is not an easy answer. This is not an easy debate. There has to be eligibility criteria, there has to be level of fairness, and there has to be uniformity in what the individual federations are doing and what the IOC wishes to do. So let me quickly summarize the legal aspects of this. You have the Court of Arbitration for Sport rulings, which has had previous decisions allowing or requiring lowering of testosterone levels. And then you had shifts in the thinking, because obviously that's not enough. As I said, there are many repercussions to medication and there are many other challenges around this. Future regulations could also impact the levels of testosterone reduction that have been required. And then there's policy adjustments. So many international federations need to work along with the CAS rulings and need to work along with the IOC to come up with maybe more nuanced rules around this topic, because it's not a black and white situation as we have clearly seen. And you're going to have obviously an ongoing debate between lawyers, advocacy group, fairness in sport, etc. There's also human rights considerations, right? There's legal human rights law that protects athletes' right and also protects their rights of confidentiality of their information and of their testing information and all of that. And then obviously you have future legislation. So we need future legislation that clears the path for current athletes, for future athletes, allows for inclusivity in women's sport, but ensures that the boundaries are kept very, very fair. Easy for things like this to be said, but one has to look at the Caster Semenya case law and some of the other debates and cases that have been sparked in the international courts and see what lessons we learned and see how medical, scientific, and other information helps support the nuanced laws and the nuanced thresholds that we do need in the world of sport. I don't think this is the last we've seen of the debate, but I do think that the IOC would need to put their heads together, frankly, and come up with a solution or come up with criteria that doesn't affect athletes' performance and is fair, and hopefully LA is a slightly different story. But on a more happier note, the chocolate muffin story of the Olympics really made me laugh, and the first thing I did when I read all about those chocolate muffins is I ran to the bakery next door and got a whole bunch of them because it was such a cute story. I do hope that you've all enjoyed these last few weeks and last few months of watching amazing sport despite the controversies involved. There's always a controversy somewhere. That's it from Think Tank this week. I thought I'd post a short video on something that was topical and something that had so many legal connotations involved in it.